Hello, everyone. Welcome to the part 2 of the RB5 Showcase 2.0. Today, we're going over the Mystical Affinity, and I'm joined with a player who basically dominates the Mystical Blitzes because he has a massive dick team. He is an honorary owl and will hopefully rejoin us one day, Mr. Zubaz.
Hey, how's it going?
Going good. Are you excited to be here?
I am. I'm very excited to be here. I really enjoyed the last time you went through this, and it actually motivated me to take some of my own mystics all the way up, so I could get some more entries on the list. And so I was even more thrilled that you asked me to fill in and give some commentary on the blues.
Good. Yeah, I think you have some of the most unique / the most mystical RB5s. Like out of all the people, I think you might be one of the top quantity amount.
Right.
If that makes sense. So before we get started, once again, I'd like to also thank Mr. SilverFox for making all the portraits and doing some stunning art. He did really a good job on a lot of these new ones. And he went and updated all the names on the old ones. If you see him in the community center or your local Discord channels, be sure to give him a pat on the back. He deserves it. So once again, we're going over the Mystical Affinity today. There's a wide variety of toons in this list. There's all parts of varying types of teams. A lot of these toons are ones you think to yourselves like, oh, of course that one's, someone took that one to RB5. And others you can be like, really? That guy put that character to RB5? That's interesting. So I really like our assortment. I think there's actually I messed up and forgot to put a couple of yours in, but I thought that the Mystical Affinity had the least amount of RB5s in it, but in reality, it actually has the exact same amount as the Physical Affinity. So this might be a long video. I will have some timestamps in the comment or the description below. But yeah, so let's go ahead and just jump in real quick. So the first one we have up is Alan Scott by DuBois. He's still the only one. He had this last time, but he has left the Owls and has joined Josh Rar's Alliance, the 1500. Alan Scott has a lot of team sustain and self sustain, and he hits like a bus. On Alan Scott.
His retaliation is just, it's massive. It's something that you absolutely have to account for. And at RB5, it's just even more pronounced.
Agreed. The guy he's kind of scary because he's always giving his team more and more shield. So he has to die fairly quick. But at the same time, you're like, if I touch him, I'm going to die.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that really stuck out to me in the last Mystic Blitz, this was obviously the first Mystic Blitz where we had the sort of amped up Cheetah with the advanced turn 0 turn meter and the Black Flash. And so most teams, because Black Flash was the bonus, everybody was running Cheetah Black Flash, and you could auto almost all of your enemies in the blitz, but you could not auto them if they had Alan Scott, because you run that AoE against Alan Scott and he's just it's almost an automatic retaliation, and he'll one-shot Black Flash in a lot of instances.
Dang, I didn't know that. Is the Cheetah Black Flash the team that you ran? What is your dick team that I keep forgetting exactly who's on it in the Mystic Blitz?
When I was running for defense, I would run. It would actually be Constantine as your lead, and then Circe, Eclipso, and Swamp Thing.
Oh, geez, there's a lot of revives there.
Yeah, so it's kind of based on revives, and then also just you've got Eclipso, who's somebody that you also have to account for, and he's not easy to account for during the Mystic Blitz because there aren't a ton of can't miss blues. But so that being said, I was not running Alan Scott, but what a lot of people were doing, because the bonus toons were, you had Cheetah, Black Flash, and you could just run that the entire time along with the other two bonus toons, Parasite and Star Sapphire. And So people were just running that on auto. Ocean Ballsy, he won the Mystic Blitz, and he said flat out, he's like, yeah, I just ran that team on auto. You get your 6 bonus points plus 9 for the 3 stars. As long as you just spammed that, you'd be fine. But there were a couple guys in the top 20 that were running teams that you couldn't do that against. And one of them, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it was somebody that had it wasn't RB5, but probably maybe an RB2 or 3, Alan Scott. And it was just one of those things where he would absolutely one-shot your Black Flash if you weren't paying attention.
That's annoying. That's the case that happened. That makes me think though too, because your defense team, there's only like 3 characters in the blue affinity that have heal immunity, and none of them are like massive hitters.
Right.
But interesting. Okay. Yeah. Anything else on not Du Bois, but Alan Scott?
Yeah, Alan Scott. The only thing I'd mention about Alan Scott is I do think that the devs, I was talking about this with Du Bois, I think they secretly buffed him a little bit in some regard. His affinities, he's listed as a Lantern, but not a Green Lantern Corps member, which makes sense with the lore. He was never in the Green Lantern Corps, but he is obviously the original kind of Green Lantern that we know. And initially, when applying St. Walker's bonus, Alan Scott was not a recipient of the bonus under St. Walker or Guy Gardner. But I think it was when they added Kilowog and Guy that enough people went back and were like, okay, Alan Scott is a Green Lantern. He needs these bonuses. So now he does get those bonuses. He gets the damage immunity from Guy. He gets the bonus from Kilowog, and he does get the bonus under St. Walker, which is kind of like a under the radar buff that they gave him since the last time we talked about this.
That's very under the radar because I had no idea that was the case.
Yeah,
St. Walker.
I think a lot of people assumed that he was already getting those buffs, but he wasn't, because it really does go strictly by affinity. And he does not have the Green Lantern Corps affinity, so he was not getting those St. Walker bonuses. So now, especially in your Mystic Blitz with under St. Walker, he's even more potent.
Jesus, I haven't seen the St. Walker team in a while either, but I'm hoping that the addition of like Impulse and Black Flash, that some slower team leaders come out to play again, because I can easily beat Lex teams at this point with some of those lower leaders. And hopefully Alan Scott comes back, because Alan Scott's one of those slower characters as well.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's a really good thing to mention about Green Lantern. I had something I was going to say too, but I forgot entirely what I was going to say, but maybe I'll come back to it. The next one on the list that we have, sorry to be so quick about this, the M4 one, the one we did with the physicals, lasted an hour and a half.
90 minutes, yeah.
Like, oh, geez, this is a while. So the next one on the list, we have Black Adam. And a lot of people have Black Adam, like, geared up and everything. Rightfully so. He is great at Lord of the Unliving. He hits pretty hard sometimes. He's not exactly who you want to bring to PvP anymore, but he does help you clear out a lot of good stuff. So bringing him to RB5 might help him perform better in PvP. The people who had him last time we did this were Loot from the Owls, Lucas or Lou Ninus. I always say Lou Ninus every time I see his name. From the Black Lantern Corps, which I don't think exists anymore. So I
don't think so either.
I must have not updated that one. Then we also have Rise JP2294 from the Antimatter Universe. The Best Masta, who Kingdom of Atlantis is that one. And Lucas is in Little Black Book, not Black Lantern. It's updated on the art. It's not updated on my Excel sheet. And then we had Vincent Young of the Owls. Obviously, he's got the most RB5s at this point. Twin City Legend of Kingdom of Atlantis. And that's it for all of the old players. Then we have M4 of the Owls, Sheriff Lobo of the Owls. And then there was this Chinese player who I don't know how to say it, but I did ask I asked Fries about how to translate it, and he said it's translates to the Little Black Book, or at least, or that's his alliance, his Little Black Book. The translation is old guy in the corner. Thank you. So that's an interesting name.
Yep.
I hope that has some sort of Chinese like folklore or something about it. Otherwise, it's an interesting name. But what are your thoughts on Black Adam?
I mean, Black Adam he remains one of those guys that was so special during his rework, because he was one of the first ones that they really didn't do a ton to his kit. They made some improvements, but the big change was from his physical damage to special damage. And I think that rework kind of ushered in this new era of Mystic Toons being special damage characters, that they could really lean into that. Almost all the new toons that come out that are blue are special damage now. And his damage was off the charts. It always was. His AoE was always impressive. I think he's lost a little bit of his appeal, but not because he lost effectiveness at all. I think there's just been so many new toons that they've added, such that, I think that he's not always everybody's go-to. But he's one of those toons that you have to account for. If you let him get his AoE off, you could be looking at 4 of them in a row and a loss.
I think after the first one, you probably lost at least a green on your team, easily. Unless you have Lex and you started overhealing already and gaining some intelligence for defense. But yeah, if you don't stun him or silence, or, he's going to take out one of your squishier greens, because you have to have at least one squishy green on your team, it feels like, anymore for support. But yeah, I think he's still, even if you don't like the character, he's a must gear anyway, just for the Lord of the Unliving event. If you don't want to spend 75 Speed Force every time you refresh it, he's one of the two toons.
Flash. I mean, there's been a lot of chatter that Black Flash is sort of replacing him a little bit now. I don't think that the damage is quite as good, but Black Flash has the advantage of his AoE being what the AI immediately goes to. The Black Adam AI defaults to using his 3 a lot of the time, which, costs you a couple seconds here and there.
True. I am curious how that works. The current way that the Black Adam, Captain Adam combo is like the 3 from Black Adam perfectly lines up with the purge of Deathstroke's awarenesses on Lord of the Unliving. So I'm curious exactly how a Black Flash would fit in there, because I feel like you'd waste a couple turns just like knocking off awarenesses from Deathstroke on that first wave. But at the same time, I could see it, because after he starts like hitting his AoE over and over again and just still murdering people, you're right. I could definitely speed it up a bit.
Yeah, I think people will run some tests and they'll kind of figure out, it could be a combo of the two that winds up being what works best.
True.
But yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be a character that's always just there, and he's someone special. I think even for newer players too, because he's that last node of PvE. He's almost like the boss of the game if you don't consider Necron and some of the other guys. So I think people are always going to have a real sort of soft spot for him as a really high damage character.
True. There's like a little bit of a prestige in having him as in your roster. Good point. Yeah. But let's move on to the next character. We have Circe, who was not available, or she was just becoming available last time I did this. And the only 4 I have logged are owls and whatchamacallit. So it is Hate Mail, Loot, Grim Reaper, and M4. Oh, actually, I lied. There's one more. There's the Best Masta as well from Kingdom of Atlantis, who all have Circe to RB5, which is scary because she's going to be a lot harder to kill. First of all, she's going to have a little bit more defense in her stats, and you kind of need to have her die first. Otherwise, people are just going to keep coming back, and they keep pairing her with people like Black Mask or Constantine or White Lantern Sinestro is another good one, and it just causes you those revive problems over and over again. So what are your thoughts on Circe?
Yeah, I think she's been amazing. I when I saw her kit, everybody, when they look at her kit, they immediately go to that passive, the revive your dead teammates passive. And they're just like, oh, that's so cheap. And that's not going to help me get 3 stars and all that kind of thing. And for sure, it helps you on defense. If you have Circe on your lineup, you're going to have more defensive wins than your average toon. What I think a lot of people didn't realize is how good she is on offense, though. The 30% chance to stun on any single move is devastating. If you manage it on the AoE, which it automatically stuns all 4 enemies, it's one of the most devastating moves in the game. You've got 4 stuns, turn meter down, and a purge. It's one of those things that I think people really underestimated, and that's why you see people taking her to RB5. She is not like a super popular toon where people are like, oh, I love Circe as a character. I can't wait to take her all the way up. She is a toon that they're doing because her kit is so good.
I'd agree with that because her debut, she became the fastest AoE purger out there. She made Hal Jordan teams pretty much irrelevant. She made, unless you put an evasion character like Harley on it, but she still can't bypass evasion, which is nice. Like there are counters to Circe, but she does have, she has her self-sustain. She's got some damage immunity with her, which if you don't kill her and you get really close to killing her, but you don't, then it's like, oh crap, now I can't kill her. And I'm going to have to do something else until that damage immunity goes away. So definitely an interesting toon, a great toon to take to RB5. That AoE stun, yeah, you're right. It's like instant win at that point. Like if you can't win after the AoE stuns that team, you're like, what kind of shit team did I bring to the table? Like, either way, I completely agree with all of your points. I love all the art that SilverFox brought in. The beautiful purple forest.
She's an interesting because she has had so many different looks. She's actually been around a lot longer than people kind of think. She's a character that debuted 40, 50 years ago. And they always just give her a different look because they can. She has no definitive look. I think that the developers did a pretty good job, but what SilverFox did here with accentuating the purple and everything, it makes her look a lot different than Star Sapphire or somebody like that. I think it was a really awesome job.
I agree. It's cool though because she's like an immortal character too, so like she has all these eras that she can live through and look different in any time she wants. And whatchamacallit, I do want to point out
affinities or with the team affinity of Greek god, which I didn't think they'd ever use again after Ares. I was like, why did they even bother with that? And then sure enough, they added Circe later.
I didn't even know that she had. I forgot that sometimes I don't look at the affinities or the affiliations or whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
Smart thing to do. I thought she'd be part of like the super. Anytime I don't think that they have an affiliation, it's always like the secret society of supervillains or something.
Her only actual affiliation in the lore would be very recently in Justice League Dark. She started her own sort of anti-one called Injustice League Dark, and she's the leader of that organization. It's a really cool group where it's got basically like a counter enemy for Deadman with the Floronic Man. It's got Clarion the Witch Boy, a couple other just of these like evil mystic guys. Grundy is in there as well. And it's a really cool lineup. I wish they would bring a couple more of those into the game because that would be a fun team to run too.
I definitely asked for Clarion quite a few times already because I always wanted that Dr. Fate rework.
Nice.
And so I was like, ooh, a Clarion would like probably trigger a Fate rework. And it would be just a cool character to have in general. But definitely agree with you there. That would be super fun, a little mix to bring in. I did want to point out before we moved on that if you haven't seen my 2D toon on Circe, there is a very prominent vagina in her hair. And I think that everyone should see that. It will be in my 2D toon. There's a moment right at the beginning. I put that. But moving on, we have a character that only I was the owner of at the last time I did this, and it is Cheetah. All of the people who have her right now are owls. We have Bullseye, the leader of the Owls, Juicy Fries, the previous leader of the Owls, myself, and Vincent Young as well. So I'm not surprised any of those people upgraded her because she is great. She's on the same par as Martian Manhunter. She basically the opposite of which, like Martian Manhunter has kind of like a defensive leadership, and she has more of an offensive one. And I really like that there's kind of two ends of that spectrum. I also think that it rightfully should be her getting the 20% turn meter right away, since she's listed as one of the fastest characters in DC. Like basically just shy of a speedster level speed almost. Like she can't use the speed force, but she's pretty damn fast. So I really enjoy that aspect of her. And she is like, anytime I need a blue that's gonna kill Arcus or Lex, I know that she can basically one shot them both because she's RB5 and she crits all the time. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously one of the more successful reworks that they've done, even if it was only that passive change that they made, but all the little tweaks that they made, really put her on a different level. She's somebody that I used for a long time because she was such an effective bleeder. She had some bugs in her kit. Her leadership never worked properly, and they just fixed all that. And that was just an absolute money rework that they did. She I think this was the first Mystic Blitz since her rework, and she became the most dominant leader by far. If you want to compete in Mystic Blitz, you're gonna have to level up your Cheetah, basically.
I like that they force you kind of to do that. Like there are reasons to bring certain characters, like even if you don't use them on a daily or like in Wraith or in campaign, like there is a mode where this character excels in the most. And I think that's super awesome to do. Whatchamacallit. I did think that I was not expecting the purge on her too when she got reworked. I was kind of hoping they kept the like higher crit opportunity, because there are times when she doesn't one shot people and I want her to, but at the same time I get it. All of the bleed turn meter that she gains at this point makes the team that she's on extremely fast, but it also kind of annoys me too because Jay Garrick can steal that turn meter, even though the turn meter is gained from kind of technically a passive ability. You have to hit or apply bleeds, and he can steal that turn meter. So that kind of turned me off a little bit to that, but at the same time, I mean, might as well make Jay a little bit relevant. So
yeah, and I think one of the best aspects about her too, she instantly becomes one of the best blue leaders, along with Lex being one of the best green ones, because they both have so many nodes that you can farm them. So if you're a newer player, you have access to one of the best leaders in the game. That's really underrated that they've done there.
that's a good point. Yeah, I totally agree with that. They have that kind of makes me curious about like the future of there's like 7 characters in the campaign nodes that have 7 different nodes.
Right.
And I think 4 of them have been reworked, but I think we're still missing Cyborg, Zatanna, Batman, CC. Oh, there's 3 of them that have been reworked, and then the 4th one that is missing is Green Arrow, Emerald Archer. So that gives me hope for all those characters, that those are going to be great reworks.
And I think that's also one of the other reason that so many people RB5'd her. Cheetah's always been around. She's never been somebody that people really love that much. She's a pretty generic character. Her new movie didn't do her a ton of favors or anything. No. She's another character that I think people did because, 1, she's so available, and 2, her kit is so good.
Agreed. Moving on, we have the next one is your unique. I think it's very recent unique, Deadman. Really interesting character. When they showed us the silhouettes of who was coming out that month, I was very curious as to what his kit would be like, because his really only power is to fly and possess people. I might be wrong on that. You might have a much bigger in-depth knowledge of his powers, but He did have a thing in the Brightest Day, I believe. He was like the main character of that, which is cool. Other than that, I don't really know too much about Deadman. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head when people realized it was Deadman. I think a lot of people were expecting every single move to be a call assist. And in fact, I was a little apprehensive. I was like, how are they going to do this? He's intangible. So how are they going to do that? He can't hit people. So what are all of those things? And I actually think that they did a really creative job. It's one of the reasons that I took him to RB5. I mean, I was probably going to do it anyway. He's one of my all-time favorites. But I think both with the animations and with the actual kit that they gave him, I think that they did it really, really well. But I mean, you're right though, that his possession skill is really all he has. He can't even communicate with people unless they are other mystics. Some of his very, very early comics, there's a lot of funny scenes where he has to go ask Batman for help and he doesn't really know what to do. And he winds up leaving him these voicemails on like the bat phone through other people where he inhabits them and like calls Batman because he can't talk to him. So I think they did a great job. And I love his kit. It fits with my style of play. I think the permanent invisibility was kind of a stroke of genius there. And it gives me hope that they will add other like permanent unpurgeable buffs to some characters if they do it creatively and not in an overpowered way. But he's a guy that I have been running this entire siege. He fits in really well with these speedsters because his basic has those turn meter down. I think a lot of people didn't realize that his 2 skill with the double call assist, that he can use it on himself. And you use it on yourself, you crit twice on your basic, and you do their turn meter down, 40% or whatever it is. And it's a really, really effective move. He's a guy that, not to tip my hand too much, but he's a guy that's pretty effective in raids for that exact reason as well.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. Whatchamacallit, I did guess beforehand because when they released Circe before him, they kind of brought that permanent unpurgeable buff or debuff out. And I kind of guessed that he would have a very difficult invisibility to get rid of. Like they could have maybe done it the way they did Scarecrow or Constantine, where it like had a % chance to come up every turn or something like that. But I'm glad the way that they did it because there's no way to make him visible, I guess. But you're right. He's a great support character. I love that his legendary makes him look like the Night King from Game of Thrones. His also like just the fact that his suit is like looks like it's made of like the inner muscle of your body is just super cool, well thought out design. Whatchamacallit, the character itself, I think is super fun to have in the game as far as like depth and variety of characters because they seem to give all the D-list characters like really great kits. And Deadman isn't overpowered by any means, but he's still like super cool to have on your team. So very happy he is part of the game. Any last thoughts on Deadman?
No, I know he's not super available, but I definitely encourage people any option that they have to get him to take it because he will really help you out a lot. I have a lot of fun with him in a lot of different comps.
Good, awesome. So we're gonna move on to the next one. We have Donna Troy. She was available for the last time I did this. There were a few people that already had her last time. Now those people were Vincent Young of the Owls, Elima de la Gente of Hand of Doom, Grim Reaper of the Owls, and Sheriff Lobo of the Owls. Oh, geez, I need to swallow some water. There are some new people as well, though. We have M4 from the Owls, Prim from the Owls, who also surprised us with that one. He was a sandbagger for the longest time, and we finally pressured him into just Rebirth 5ing some people. Loot finally did it. Red Frenchie from Viverite did it, and Hate Mail also did it between last time and this time. He was very close last time, but he didn't have it. So I couldn't give him the credit, but she's a super cool character. I still love this art. It's probably one of my favorites.
That art, if the devs hear this, or we're debuting all these skins, 2 or more a month, it seems like she's gotta have this galaxy costume. That is her like iconic costume. They've got to get that to her. I don't know when, but that is the outfit she needs in the game.
They kind of gave it to the other Wonder Girl though. Like her legendary is like the red starry like costume.
No, but this black one, I mean, that's one that comic book people collect. When she was like her first cover wearing what they call the galaxy costume, all those things. It's a really interesting one when they draw it, because it's never the same every time.
Right.
Keep in mind, like when she debuted, they weren't doing this by computer. They were generally doing this by hand. So it looked different every time. And it gave this impression that like her costume was actually made of like the stars. It was made of the galaxy, and it just became her iconic look. So to get that in the game, I don't know exactly how or if they could do it, but that I think is the skin that they need for her.
I agree. It's super cool. Like her current black skin is okay, but it's not like good enough as far as this one goes. Whatchamacallit, she is one of the characters that a lot of people in this game like love to have. Like she seems to be everyone's favorite character, and she was one of those characters that when she debuted, she didn't seem like she was the greatest, but once you figured out like how she worked, you were like, oh my god, she has to be like on my roster every match. And she can kind of ruin plans too. Like obviously Circe's in the mix now, so like the purge is possible, but like if you want to true sight one shot someone turn 1, you can't do that anymore because she's got the awareness, and she's not even a leader, so that's really nice too.
Right. She's in a lot of what those people call like the world engine teams or whatever, because of that move cooldown, that she lowers the cooldown on everybody. You pair up her and World's Greatest Detective, and you basically no longer have cooldowns on your team.
And that's super cool trick to bring out. Do you have any thoughts on Donna Troy?
Yeah, I mean, she is what she is. She's always going to be kind of S tier until she gets completely power crept, and even then, because you're bringing her for the awareness on defense. Right away when they did the Manhunter rework, everybody was like, "Shit, pair those 2 together," and all of a sudden you're starting with 2 awareness on every single player. Circe can wipe that out, but even just not taking the damage is huge. So she's always going to be up there. I think even if she gets completely power crept, just because of her kit, she will always stick around. Safe investment.
Agreed. Very much so agreed. So let's go ahead and move on. Last time we did also have this character. It's a character that I used to be working towards. Sad that I'm no longer, but maybe one day he'll get a rework. But Dr. Fate by Dada, I don't really know how he wants it pronounced. Dada Fate from Titans Taiwan.
Didn't he change it? Didn't he just used to be Dr. Fate?
No, I think he was Dada Fate last time too.
Yeah.
The reason I wanted him RB5 at the time was because I liked the Supergirl rework because of all the heal immunity and stuff, and I really liked the idea of out of turn attacks at that time. And his was a very unique one that only triggered by healer buff immunity, and it also happened before the enemy took their turn, so it could prevent them from getting a turn if you managed to kill them. And he also hits very, very hard still. Like he has been power crept a little bit, but even still, he hits decently hard at this point in time. So still a great character to have. Even on defense, he was great. I actually had quite a few defensive wins with that team, but I was getting to the point where I had too many Rebirth 5 team ideas, and Atrocitus hasn't gotten an event yet. So I decided not to do it. I dropped it like it was hot, but I still have enough fragments for Rebirth 3. I think he's a super fun character, and hopefully if Clarion ever joins the game, we can get an Order versus Chaos month. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, he's one that I have been experimenting with lately with the advent of some of these speedsters, because one of the biggest knocks on him was always just that he is one of the slowest toons in the game. But when you are starting out with plus 35 turn meter, or then immediately resetting your enemy's turn meter, all of a sudden Fate can kind of compete. He needs a little bit of time to kind of set up. And so now he's a guy that can kind of hang around. I do wish that in his rework that they kind of take maybe some of the elements of the old Dr. Fate kit. He used to be the guy that would provide team-wide int ups and all that kind of stuff. I think there's a happy medium between where they took him and where he was. But he's always, he's got a farmable node, and he's just an interesting character. He's one that you got to kind of build around, but if you do, you can do a lot of damage with him.
Agreed. Very much agree. And he's also one of the 3 characters that I remember seeing in the blue affinity with heal immunity. Most of them, I think, are physical characters, but he's one of the 3 that have it. So it's him, Spectre, and I think Silver Banshee. So he's very useful against. Oh, wait, actually, Swamp Thing also has it. I forgot about him. But
yeah, his animations are so cool too in the game. Some of the best. His old Retaliation, which is still kind of there. Just a really cool thing to watch in that 1 speed if you've never done it before.
Oh, I've done it. I've used that animation in multiple of my intros for videos all the time.
Right.
Like I have multiple intros at this point in time, but one of them includes that one, and it takes like 15 seconds, I feel like, just to like get all the way through. But it's a super cool one. I completely agree with you. Probably one of the best animations in the game. But let's move on. So we have a character that wasn't RB5 last time, and I was honestly kind of surprised because this is a character that everybody loved upon debut. Everybody needed this character for some reason. It was just like the end-all be-all of blue characters. It is Etrigan, and both of the players that have him are not owls. They are Carl Ben, 1988, from the All-Star Alliance, and Morosi, 311, from Legenda, however you want to say that. Etrigan is kind of easier to deal with at this point in time, but still, if you decide to kill him last and you are unsuccessful before they get a kill on your team, he is now a problem. And I've fought teams multiple times with him on it, and I'm like, okay, he's power crept. I'm not really gonna worry too much about him, but then he goes off and he destroys me every single time. Still, like, he's still a very valuable character in a roster. What are your thoughts on Etrigan?
Yeah, I think the only thing that prohibited people from having him RB5 a lot earlier is just access to his shards. It seems like he doesn't come up that often, but once they added him as kind of a regular in the red alerts, all of a sudden people were resetting that and getting 50, 60, 75 shards a go, and it became a very viable option. He is super fun. He's a guy that I used to lean on him as a crutch a lot. You pair him with Constantine, and because his basic has the double when he's overhealed, if you throw the assist on him, he gets 4 attacks in. And that's something that has been kind of replicated with some of the new call assist people. St. Walker will do the same thing with him. Even if he doesn't have a massive stack of intelligence ups, if you can get 4 basics off with him, he's almost certainly going to kill whatever he's attacking.
He also gets true damage on his basic too, doesn't he?
Yes, yeah, which eats through that awareness, which is like I think a kind of unknown and underrated part of his kit as well. So yeah, he's a guy that he's able to be kept in check now because buff immunity is something that wasn't. It's a lot more prevalent than when he debuted.
Right.
What I noticed, especially in the last Mystic Blitz, I'll keep coming back to that because it just happened and because that's what we're talking about here. But Star Sapphire became kind of the best way to just kind of deal with Etrigan because she does her AoE. It's got that buff immunity, and all of a sudden, it doesn't matter if he gets a kill. He can overheal to high heaven for all he wants, but it's only until he gets his stack of like 12 intelligence ups that you're like, oh shit, I'm about to lose. So if you slap him with the buff immunity, you're fine. And I think that's why he's lost a little bit of his shine. But he's just so fun on offense. And he's a guy that if you pair with the right people, you're going to just be able to put everything on auto.
Right. He's a snowball character. He has a pretty good speed level. I think it's 120. The crit immunity right away prevents him from getting one-shotted. There's so much good stuff in his kit. There was a reason why I haven't done a 2D tune on him yet, because he is a meta character and hasn't really left the meta in a very long time. So
yeah.
He's kind of like the blue power girl, in my opinion. Like he's ever since his debut, he just hasn't left PvP. So
yeah, he's always been a fan favorite character. People have loved him for a very long time. People kind of dig the rhyming scheme whenever it shows up. Some people think that that's always the case. It's not. It's like a writer's choice that they've given him. Right now in future state, he's separated from Jason. His other form is Detective Chimp.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah. So I think that's just going to be for future state. But he's been a really interesting guy in the last couple of years in comics. They seem to blame him for a lot of things. He's an anti-hero. He was a villain. And a villainous hero kind of before that was cool with Deadpool and Lobo and Deathstroke and those kind of guys. He's a demon from hell. That's technically a bad guy for most people. So he's always been a popular guy. And I think people probably would RB5 him even if his kit wasn't as good as it is.
Right. I do love the fact that he rhymes a lot. All the comics that I have read with him, he rhymes. Like even in his art, they show his like transformation rhyme.
Right.
And like there was one I tried to read that I stopped reading because I was trying to learn more about Vandal Savage, and there was one with Etrigan and Vandal from like very long time medieval era. And Savage wasn't the character I thought he was going to be, so I stopped reading it. But whatchamacallit, the Etrigan's a cool character, and I think Joker, the moderator CC, he showed me a comic once about like Spectre just like ripping Etrigan apart, and that was a pretty cool like art as well, and it shows kind of power levels a little bit and what Etrigan is capable of.
Both Dr. Fate and Spectre have absolutely rendered Etrigan into like millions of pieces. So yeah, and Etrigan, one of the reasons Etrigan is so good is he is a Jack Kirby character. People, they basically associate Jack Kirby with Marvel. They think Fantastic Four and Captain America and Thor and all those guys. But when he came to DC, he created Etrigan, and that is one of the Jack Kirby's the king, and that's why he was so good from the beginning.
I agree. He's an interesting character. We probably spent a little too much time on that, so we can keep moving forward. We have the next one is Hippolyta, who is. Ever since her rework, she basically became the go-to support character of the game because she went from not really being able to do much to being able to support literally anyone in the game. Shortly after her rework, I started using her in almost all of my 2D tunes because like the synergy section, like she synergizes with everyone, and I stopped doing that because she synergizes with everyone. I can stop mentioning her now because she is that good. The two people that we have with RB5. They definitely wailed out because she didn't get, I don't believe she got the event. She had a 6-day event before she got reworked, but nobody thought she was going to be worth anything. So they just kind of left it on the sidelines, and then she got reworked and she was amazing. So these two, OC3 from the Owls and the Ocean from the Owls, had to mega whale out to get her all the way to RB5. She's great for raids. She's great for giving turn meter and stun immunity and strength and intelligence ups. But my favorite use for Hippolyta is combining her with Daddy, or Kyle Rayner Parallax, as other people like to call him. Her permanent stamina ups from her leadership help him kind of bring the all of his passives up and permanently. She also works really, really well with Barda, which I kind of like that because Barda and Wonder Woman have some good stories together, I think. They're kind of similar characters in a way as far as female empowered warrior. And so I really enjoy the fact that they went and reworked Hippolyta despite her low appearance rate in Wonder Woman 84.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I think it deserves shouting out. June of 2020, I think that's the most successful month that DCL has ever had, ever. You've got Circe, Artemis, Hippolyta rework, and Cheetah rework. I mean, those are all basically, A to S tier characters. I don't think they've ever had a month like that where just everything was amazing. And it was just really well done. I think all of the kits they're good in their own way, which was really cool. But she's a superstar. I think on paper, a lot of people didn't even realize it. I don't think it's not a secret anymore that she is super effective in raids. But she's also really effective in red alerts. She's not somebody that I bring to PvP all that much because I don't. It's like she's so good that you don't think of her first. You look at the enemy team and you think of the problems you need to solve, and she's like an easy fourth to add to everything, so you don't automatically go to her. But if you ever have 3 of your guys down, you're like, who should I add for the fourth? They've got some evasions over there, but I might need this. Bring her and you're golden. And so yeah, they did a great job. I think the character art looks really good. I think SilverFox's art looks really good here too, but I think that's one that they got pretty close to the movie character without just copying and pasting. So yeah, I think that's Hippolyta.
Yeah. I think that even though she's a support character, I think that her stats alone are very well done as well, because even her call assist, if you use her call assist on a green character, there's a good chance you're not going to get a call assist because her initial attack is just going to straight up kill him. And then her basic is also it doesn't look the animation doesn't look like it's going to do a lot of damage. Some of the attacks out there, you see Alan Scott's uppercut and you're like, oh shit, that guy's gonna deal some damage, but she kind of just pokes you with her sword, and then you're like, oh shit, she just one shot that dude. So I really enjoy the fact that not only is she a good support character, but she's just a good character in general, even though she's not exactly Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman, Trinity-esque level design or notoriety. So I really just enjoyed that. But let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Someone I am actually quite jealous of. I keep hyping them up every time I talk about my plans for Rebirth 5, my own plans. And I always mention the Shazam characters. And Mary is super fun. I really like what they did with her. Her animations are a little interesting. Her AoE for Mary Shazam is Sith lightning almost, so it makes her look a little bit evil, but also super cool character. I'm very happy that somebody
her history is kind of, especially in recent years where they've had her do a lot of stuff with Black Adam, she's got a little bit of a dark side to her, so
good. That makes her more interesting in my opinion. But yeah, M4 from the Owls, he beat me to the punch. he created this really like tough team that like is very, very difficult to beat, and she's part of it. Because I think it doesn't necessarily rely on people dying, but um, the fact that she hits as hard as she does, and she can hit you when you kill one of your teammates, it makes her a problem child and someone that is impossible to deal with. But she also has really good turn meter control as well. So there's a lot of bonuses to her kit that a lot of people kind of overlooked when she came out. But what do you think about Mary?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think you just said it exactly right. That she has so many things going on in her kit that people do overlook her. The passive with the turn meter down on every turn basically is just, that's so devastating. And she's a toon that in Mystic Blitz that I would throw on defense, and I would notice defensive wins coming in, pairing her with Constantine and Circe, and all of a sudden you've got people dying on defense, and then Mary is there whipping you with lightning while Constantine is throwing intelligence downs on you. You're going to run into problems. But she's super, super effective, and I agree. I wish I had more shards of her. I have enough to do, I think, maybe Rebirth 2, but not high enough to really go all the way.
Yep, I also have enough for Rebirth 2. I think I'm waiting until like all of my teams that I have like kind of set up in my head are at least RB1 or 2 before I move into that. But yes, I will eventually get all of the Shazam characters to RB5. I'm still working on Freddy. Freddy is not on this list, but I want to be the first. We'll see if that happens, because there are some RB Freddys, but they're not RB5.
Yeah, I've seen a couple. He'll surprise you too. I think they did a pretty good job with that month. I think really the weak spot was Shazam proper. Captain Marvel or whatever you want to call him, but he shouldn't be the weakest of the four, and he's the one that gets used the least by a long margin. But overall, when they did the reworks to Black Adam, Captain Marvel, Mary, and Freddy debut, I thought it was a pretty good month.
It was a fun month for me as well. But go ahead, let's move on. We had Parasite. This one also existed the last time we did this. This was actually Hawk Guy of the Owls. He was kind of experimenting, apparently. He wanted to see if Parasite, because Parasite's already kind of like a pain in the ass to deal with. Like his healing upon being hit is almost guaranteed, and he almost all the time heals for more health than you hit him with in the first place. So that outward level of tankiness was kind of, I think, the selling point to Hawkeye, and he said that this was his experiment where he tried to see if a mediocre toon could become an amazing toon. When he brought him to RB5, and he did bring him to RB5, and there's a team now that he uses. I fought a couple times on Red Alerts, where he is honestly feeding Azrael on his team, and like he's just a meat shield, and Azrael goes to town because you can't kill Parasite, but you need him to die. And then as Parasite's getting hit, Azrael keeps buffing up and destroying you. So very, very annoying character. Kind of easy to counter if you bring some heal immunity, but at the same time, got a lot of heals in his kit and can surprise you on his second ability, I think, with the damage. But I don't think he deals a whole lot of damage otherwise. What are your thoughts on Parasite?
Yeah, he was the third bonus character in the most recent Mystic Blitz, and I mean you hit the nail on the head with, like, he is so annoying to face. He's not somebody that you are terrified of, like, okay, if I don't manage him, he's going to beat me. The only way Parasite is going to beat you is if you didn't bring anything strong enough to kill him and you have to retreat. Which will happen. I mean, that will happen because he just doesn't die. And it was something that you saw in the last Mystic Blitz, where you would knock out, because the auto team that everybody was running was Cheetah, Black Flash, Parasite, and Star Sapphire. You'd knock out the other three. Those are all just glass cannon type characters. And then there would be Parasite, and you could leave your phone on auto, and you might come back in 5 minutes. Parasite's still there. So he's just to me, he's Superman level annoying in terms of seeing them on defense, but he's somebody you got to account for.
I completely agree. Yeah, absolutely. I love the fact that you have to account for him. You can't just like decide that your team is good enough and go in, because there's a good chance it's not good enough. But there's not really much to talk about other than that for Parasite. I don't think he was kind of designed like I could kind of see what they tried to do with his design, where like his second ability is like a buff steal and a heal at the same time. So maybe he steals Donna Troy's taunt or something like that and becomes this really annoying taunter. Like I could see their logic, but at the same time, they should have just done what they did to Penguin and just put a taunt in his kit, because otherwise he's just sitting there, a meat shield that has no like he can't get the aggro from the enemy team in any way unless you throw a taunt on him. So that is my thoughts on Parasite. We're going to move on to one of my favorite characters in the game, one of my unique Rebirth 5s, the character that I kind of hyped up for like 2 years, despite the fact that he just actually wasn't good. And that is Ras Al Ghul, who finally got the rework that I wanted for him. This guy, his initial design, I don't know what the hell they were thinking. Like,
yeah.
I remember there was the WROL boys did an interview with Stanner, and I wrote in the comments like, Stanner, who the freak greenlit this kit? And she's like, it wasn't me. I don't know. Don't put that on me. And I was like, all right, that's fine, but like, let's fix it. I submitted a kit, and they took a lot of good things from that kit and implemented it, and they included their own good things. And honestly, if the speed meta ever goes away, I think he could be one of the greatest leaders in the game. Because like when I'm up against a Lex team, I can handle it like easily. When I'm up against like Red Hood or Saint Walker or like literally any leader that doesn't have a 20% turn meter addition at the beginning of the fight, I can handle it. Fairly simple. The fact that you have a selective silence on almost every single one of your turns is amazing. His level of sustain, amazing. Like he can't be overhealed, but he's got so much health that it doesn't really matter. He doesn't gain buffs, so Wonder Girl's not a problem. Like the amount of disease he can spread passively is amazing. I could go on for days, and like I've started putting a new team together with him, because I went with the silence route first with Hush and all them, and that team was okay when I was using it, but on defense it sucked. And now I'm getting some more wins on defense because people are not accounting for the amount of disease I put on them when I include Amazo as well. So I'm really, really happy with his rework, and the inclusion of Impulse in the game has made him even more viable. So I guess I'll end my rant there. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I think that you don't toot your own tooty Tron horn enough there. I mean, they adopted nearly everything that you suggested, and you turned him into a truly outstanding character. I think that even though he got this incredible rework, I think he's still somehow underrated. And I don't know if it's because people just have still just a bad taste in their mouth from what he was before. But he is another one during Mystic Blitz where if you were doing stuff on auto, you would lose if you weren't paying attention to Raish being the leader of the other team, because he just spreads that awareness or that disease so quickly. He just it's this little bonus on the end of every single attack that you do. It's just, oh, okay, that was a good attack. Here's some extra disease. And it just melts. It just melts the entire team.
Exactly. And you can like strategically pick, like if I see an Arcus on the other team, and I know, okay, I can't kill him this turn, but I also don't want him to taunt, because that's probably I'll lose if that's the case. So I'll attack him with whatever character, or I'll AoE with whatever character, but I'll select Arcus. And there's almost every single time I do that, he gets silenced by Raish, and then he's basically useless at that point. Like, he can't do his taunt move. He's going to die pretty quickly. Like, I think people listen too much to WROL guys who are more competitive or more like siege oriented. So they don't put a lot of stock in characters that aren't quick wins or like guaranteed wins or whatever. And Raish is a fun character that can get the job done easily, but it takes a bit more brain power, you know? Like,
Absolutely.
So I'm very, very happy with what they did with him. My leadership that I picked out was not as good as the one that they picked out for him. So I'm okay with them offering that. My only complaint with his current kit is that his third attack is almost useless because it's not a guaranteed crit. If he doesn't crit on the attack, it does almost no damage. And I've seen my team be used by the AI. The AI is not smart enough to realize it should not use his 3 unless the character he's attacking is a green affinity that is also silenced. Like, that's the only time you should ever use his 3. Otherwise, you need to keep just spamming his basic or using his second ability to silence an Arcus or whatever character you don't want to heal or taunt, etc.
Yeah, and I think spamming the basic is the way to go. It's like, I think people are like, oh, well, he's a really cool disease character, but I don't want to build a whole disease team. I don't want to bust out Manbat and Amazo and all these guys. And it's like, you don't need that. Like, Raish is a one-man disease team because everything you do, he adds disease on top of.
Completely agree. Completely. You can build a team however you want around him as long as it attacks often and can survive the speed meta or Lex meta. Other than that, you're good to go. But yeah, we can move on, I guess. I've probably talked a bit too much about him. The next character we have is Saint Walker, which we also had last time. Saint was the kind of the trend set character that DuBois set up when he decided that he should instantly RB5 a character the month of their debut. And so Saint Walker was, I think, one of the very first RB5s in the game. And it's a valuable character to have because a lot of people don't put a lot of stock into Saint anymore, and then they kill everybody else on the team, and then the RB5 Saint Walker is just sitting there and now is like 4 times more powerful and calls assist himself every time and just obliterates teams by himself. So great support character that can turn into basically a striker character if you leave him by himself. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and the biggest thing for Saint Walker when you're facing him is you play the game so much and you see the same leaders kind of over and over, and you get used to just how many hits it's going to take you to defeat the other team. It's like, okay, I've got an Arcus there. I know that with Vixen or whatever I've got, it's going to take 2 swipes, whatever it is. You forget that, and then you go against Saint Walker, and you're like, what the hell's going on here? Like, is my whole team weaker all of a sudden? And it's because he adds that massive boost to defense. So it's not only do you have to like not kill him last, but you have to make sure that you bring like strong characters because of that defense that he adds. He's got what, in my opinion, is technically that bugged call assist. It's just become, that's what it is in the game. And everybody knows that he is like the go-to guy for raids, that you can just kind of pair him with the 5 multiplier toon and you'll probably be in good shape. That's not a secret anymore either. And he's a really good toon to have. He was one that people were begging for a long time. I never quite understood it, because in reality, he's had a pretty minor role in DC Comics. And to me, he's creepy. He's a religious zealot, and I'm not a huge fan of him as a character. but in the game, he's just an incredible guy to have. And he is another leader that in the Mystic Blitz that you can do a lot of damage with him. If you just pair him and the 3 bonus toons, you'll be in good shape.
Agreed, and I'm glad you talked about the lore too, because I kind of feel the same way. Like, I don't think that Saint Walker is a cool character. He looks cool, but that's like the extent of it. And I think a lot of people have that like kind of thought process on characters, like, oh, this character looks super cool, we should add them to the game. But in reality, I don't think that.
Yeah,
That
he
it's
like
a
you
great
read his
addition.
origin story, and he's just like he's abandoning his family, and you're like, man, like this
Right?
guy.
He's kind of a shitbag, I'm not gonna lie. Boy's probably gonna spite me for that, but I'm gonna completely agree with you. His origin story is trash.
I've told him this to his face, so I'm not too worried about it.
Okay, good. I'm glad. But yeah, great character in the game. I think they kind of had to add him eventually because it's kind of centered around Blackest Night, and it was the year of the Lantern, which they rounded out the year with the Black Hand and Indigo One. So they kind of brought every Lantern color into the mix. So I get it. If you're gonna include a Blue Lantern, might as well be Saint Walker. But still, well, I guess we can move on from there because the next character is someone that I'm like super, super jealous of and angry I don't have yet. Where did the art go? I had the art. The art is amazing. The art is beautiful. It's a little cornfield, and Shazam's there with Billy, and it's beautiful. And SilverFox did a great job with that as well. Whatchamacallit? Shazam is owned, the RB5 version, by this is a German name, so he told me how to pronounce it once. It's Stodem, not Stoutem. It's Stodem. And he's also of the Owls. And I assume, I don't know, but I assume that Shazam is probably insanely difficult to deal with at RB5. Like, probably harder to kill than a Parasite, just because unless you silence him, he's gonna be able to taunt and gain damage immunity and so much stamina. You can't kill him. At least that's my hope, because I will eventually Rebirth 5 him. And yeah, so super great tank. I'm sad that his rework didn't include a turn 0 taunt, but I do appreciate the damage mitigation that they gave him with his like strength downs when your characters are low, kind of thing. It might not be enough, but it's he didn't have that 5th ability before, and now he does. So I'll take what I can get at that point. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Shazam to me was Superman before they reworked Superman in the game. Like he is a huge meat shield that is annoying, and if you don't bring like somebody with buff immunity, you could be in for a world of hurt. Not for the damage that he does, but just because he's so difficult to kill. He's got that taunt, which he to me is like one of the toons that uses taunt very effectively, where it's like he puts the taunt on himself, you can't kill him, and all of a sudden you have to pay attention to him, and the rest of the team can just do what they're supposed to be doing. I think they made a couple mistakes in the rework. I think there's some percentages that are too low. I think he could be a little bit more powerful. But in general, I think he's a good character to have, and he's a fun character to use. He's somebody that I like to I build around his kit if I'm going to use him. He's not somebody that I just throw into a comp if I'm like bored or I'm trying to have fun with stuff. It's like, okay, like let's throw a Shazam comp out there and really exploit his strengths. You can do a good job with it.
I agree. A lot of people kind of give him the same complaint as the people who complain about Superman, because like in the lore in the comics, Shazam and Superman, they're basically like massive powerhouses. They are competing as far as power level goes. I think Shazam has beat him every now and again. Most of the time, Superman's still on top, but whatchamacallit.
But I mean, there's a couple big instances where he beats him, and in general, they default to Superman being vulnerable to magic and Shazam being magic. So that's when, if they do like races and stuff, there's usually ties, strength, there's usually ties and stuff. But if they actually go head to head, the most famous one, it's an Elseworlds tale, but Kingdom Come, where Shazam just absolutely ruins Superman's world. Totally loved to see it happen. That's what they default to is just his magic. Superman can't compete with that.
Right. Every time that someone complains about that kind of kit, though, I always kind of default to, well, the kit kind of resembles their personality. They're like defenders of the weak, they're anti-bully.
Right.
So the tank kit still makes sense with the character despite the low power level. Obviously, Shazam doesn't hit that hard. His 3 kind of does a little bit every now and again, but his basic is basically a tickle. And what should I call it? But at the same time, like, I just love the character. I'm glad that Stodom went forth and did this, even though I would have preferred to be the first. It's fine. Let's share the Shazam love at this point.
Yeah, I think both those kids. I mean, I think they work well for the reasons you said. Also, Shazam, he's annoying to face, and Billy Batson is kind of an annoying little kid. Superman is annoying to face, and Superman is super annoying. It is his greatest superpower because he just comes in and saves the day without really having to do anything. And he's just a really annoying character to ruin every good story that you have going. So I think both of those kits are really apt for those toons. And that's all I'm going to say about Shazam and Superman right now.
I forgot that you despise Superman, but that's okay. We can move on. So the next character we have is considered one of the best reworks of 2020. And the reason, oh wait, I missed one. I lied.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back. We're gonna talk about Siren instead. Siren is there's only one person that has her Rebirth 5. It is Joker from the League of Anarchy. And if you ever fight Joker's full Rebirth 5 bleed team, you are in for it because it is designed as a bleed team, but at the same time, because they're all RB5, they shit on you as far as damage goes. Like Siren being the premier among them, that you don't really expect much because nobody really uses Siren all that often, but holy shit, her AoE like obliterates all your greens, or if you have like Chemo as your taunter or some other green taunter in the mix, she will one-shot them with her second ability easily, or her basic. Doesn't matter. She is a lot scarier at RB5 than she is at L5, because the sheer damage combined with her bleeds, like if she doesn't kill you with the initial attack, the bleeds will finish you off no matter what. So very good choice. Like a lot of people don't think that this was a good choice. Obviously, he's the only one. But she had a 6-day event. It was cheap for him, and he went for it. What are your thoughts?
I disagree with anybody that didn't think that was a good move. I thought that's a great move. I think her rework was very, very good. The passive stacking of the bleeds is something that, a lot of the time I'm thinking of defense. You think about a character one-on-one. Siren is very, very difficult to handle one-on-one. If you don't have a can't miss character or something like it, you could be a red and be in a lot of trouble going against Siren 101. The amount of evasions that she stacks, I mean, she gets to Cassie Kane level of evasions once she starts to get you bleeding. So she's a great character. Her inclusion in the game has always surprised me. I'm a huge Atlantis and Aquaman fan. To me, she's of the lower tier of what's already a kind of scant list of Aquaman's rogues gallery. Her first month in the game was actually my first month playing. It was Aquaman, Mera, and Siren that they added the same month, back when they used to do 3 new characters at a time. And I've never understood it. I always hated her legendary look. I think that it's just a terrible design choice that they did. But now she's somebody that you have to account for. And because I keep talking about it, in Mystic Blitz, she is very, very difficult to deal with because there are so few characters that either have can't miss skills that are mystics. You either need to kind of bleed her to death with Cheetah or Vixen. And outside of those two, you could be in a lot of trouble if you see an opposing Siren.
I agree. And I when she got reworked, I think I mentioned that she's one of the few characters I think can actually 1v4 people, because as long as she gets everyone to bleed on the enemy team and she starts stacking up those evasions, as you continue to miss her, you continue to get more bleeds. And then she just applies more bleeds with her next attack, and she basically ruins your day without, unless you get really lucky and can kill her with an attack that just doesn't happen to miss. She can 1v4 teams.
Absolutely.
So, very good choice, Joker. Let's move on. So I was going to talk about this last character, but I missed it. Star Sapphire, one of the better reworks of 2020. We ended the year with some love a little bit, and I was really surprised with how good this rework is. The amount of men's that pop out, but the crit immunity with the men's is really what gave it, I think, the S tier label, even though I think she's actually, I don't know if she's considered S tier by the WRL boys, but the AoE buff immunity, all the debuffs, like, she is a powerhouse. And they gave her a bunch of good stuff, and they made it to the point where, like, they have some characters that you need to kill first, like Circe, like Black Mask, Constantine, because if you don't kill them first, they're going to set you up for failure, right? But they made Star Sapphire someone that you had to make sure you kill last, because if you kill her first, then all the damage that you did throughout the fight is now negated, and then all your debuffs are gone. It's basically a reset killing Star Sapphire. And if you combine the two, if you combine Circe with Star Sapphire, and you keep killing Star Sapphire, and Circe just keeps bringing her back to life, like, your team will just continuously heal all the time and be at full health. So, great character. I'm really glad that they actually brought her to a powerhouse level, because she is a super fun lore character that, like, has been a villain, has been a hero, and she's hot as shit. So I'm glad that they brought her up. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it all. To me, her AoE is just it is massive. It's something that played in a huge way during the recent Mystic Blitz. She was the last bonus character. It was Black Flash, Parasite, and Star Sapphire. And the way that the auto team would kind of work, you have Black Flash go first, and then usually Cheetah would be second, and then she would immediately do her AoE. And once she gets that down, it didn't matter who was on the other side. They couldn't buff. The only thing it's missing is heal immunity, basically. So yeah, they did a killer job with that. She's been a long time character. She looks great in the game. I know a lot of people prefer her basic look to her legendary. And you said it earlier when you said that they made last year, 2020 was kind of the year of the lanterns. It was like every lantern basically got a huge buff or a huge rework, or a new one came out. And she was the last one to get it, and they saved kind of one of the best for last, I think.
Yeah, poor Jon Stewart, though.
Yeah, I kind of neglected him, but
it's okay. Yeah, I don't think there's much more to say about Star. I think she's still she's gonna linger, I think, in the PvP for a while. But let's move on. We got another unique of yours. We got Swamp Thing, who we kept the artwork from last time. It's still beautiful. It's still creepy and swampy, just like Swamp Thing is. He had one of the very first set of reworks. Like, I think it was like third or fourth in. And it was really, really good for its time. Like, I think a lot of those initial reworks, give or take a few, like Joker and Dr. Fate, were very, very good reworks. And he kind of has been power crept just a little bit, but he can still one-shot greens with his 3. His revive is still super useful. Like, people still put him in Wraith Arena because he has all these great uses in his kit, and he's not just there for support. He's also there for damage and healing. So I think it's a very good choice of yours. Why did you decide to Rebirth 5 him?
Well, 2 reasons. One, Swamp Thing is, if not my favorite, top 2 or 3 favorite characters in all of comics ever. He has been blessed with some of the best writers that have ever written comics in general. You're talking about Alan Moore and guys like that, Len Wein and Grant Morrison even. He's one of those guys that just always has a good writing team. But then his kit is always really, really effective. The other reason was he was super available. He was in red alerts, and so just this combo of me loving him, loving Justice League Dark, he's available. It made it a really easy option to do. Underrated part of his kit is that basic that purges so many team buffs and then adds crit ups. He took a little bit of a hit in the Wonder Girl era, where he was adding too many men's and crit ups to your team, and so you couldn't bring him because she would just whip you for it. But in general, you see a lot of these toons that they keep bringing out. We just talked about Star Sapphire with that AOE that all of a sudden adds like 5 debuffs to every character on your team. Swamp Thing can wipe that out in like 1 or 2 turns. He purges so much, and that's one of the reasons that I really like him. I think his kit is pretty good overall. Like you said, it is power crept now. He is an RB5 for me, and I want to say that he is like my 5th or 6th most powerful character. He's behind Deadman, Vixen, Beast Boy. But he was behind Vixen, Deadman, and Beast Boy when they were like RB3. So he is power crept because he was one of the first reworks, but he's always going to stick around. I think if they ever do get a chance to rework him again, his 2 skill is what the target should be. I don't think that is super effective anymore. I think adding 1 or 2 strength downs and a light heal to your team is no longer your best option. But overall, he's a great toon for beginner players as well, because he really helps you along. You can bring Swamp Thing and get through the entirety of red alerts.
True. I discovered that with Mara recently, and those men's really add up. So absolutely. I agree with that. Whatchamacallit, I think he kind of also gained a little bit of a resurgence when Black Mask came out, because the defensive capabilities, the defense log kind of a bit on that aspect, with the revive, bringing back your whole team, and then you're like, oh shit, I just kind of got through all of the debuffs, and now I have to face it again. So
it's annoying to me that it's only 85% though. I think at the time when they were doing reworks, all of the percentages nothing was really guaranteed. And now they've made so many things kind of guaranteed that I think if he does get a second rework, that's something that they need to bump up to 100%. Because you bring him along, and if you're using that on offense, you expect it. And if it doesn't happen, you're like devastated. You're like, oh my God, screw this entire game. It's supposed to be 85%, and it just didn't happen in this time that I really needed.
Right. Anything else on Swamp Thing?
No, go read Swamp Thing. It's best series that you'll ever come across.
How did you like the show?
I thought the show was really good. I thought it was really well done for what it was. There was, some changes that I would have made here and there. For people that don't know, I actually live in Louisiana as well. So he hits really close to home. And I think that they did a really good job adapting guys like Blue Devil and Xanadu for that location. I was crushed when they was canceled before it even got started. that kind of took a little bit of the wind out of your sails when you're watching and you're like, well, how invested do I want to get if it's already going to be over?
Right.
But I still watched it. I watched it the first time through on DC Universe, and then I circled back and I've been watching it on CW and just kind of noticing little things, little Easter eggs, which they hid a ton of. I wish that they would bring Floronic Man into this game. I think he's a really cool character, and I think that they could have had a lot of fun with him in season 2.
Yeah, I saw the image of Floronic Man. Like they had designed the character and the costume and everything, and it was creepy. It was cool and creepy.
He's
I was like,
very
wow.
new. He sounds so silly. It's like, oh, he's basically just evil Swamp Thing. But Floronic Man, you think like flowers and stuff like that. But no, he is an exceptionally creepy guy, and he always has been, even in the comics as well.
Yeah, that was. I haven't seen the show because I'm not really a big fan of horror or gore or anything like that. But a lot of great things about it. So we can move on. We have not very many left. I think only 4 left. The next one up, we have White Lantern Sinestro, owned by Twin City Legend of Kingdom of Atlantis. Now, I'm a little interested. I'm like curious as to why White Lantern Sinestro, of all characters, got added to the game, because I think he was a White Lantern for all of 10 seconds before it got beat out of him, and then Hal took over and gave everybody White Lantern. So I was a little surprised that his rework definitely did make him amazing, especially with the troll team that he's most often associated with.
Right.
But at the same time, like it's still a slow team. If you bring some heal immunity characters, you're pretty much given a win. Whatchamacallit, it's solely based on 5 and
you bring Huntress against that team, and you're usually in good shape.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I still think like his basic animation's cool. And he is a really, really good synergy pick with like Starfire, because every single one of his abilities heals. But at the same time, like I don't see him ever like really leaving that troll team. And if that's your only use for him, like might as well just Rebirth 5 that team and then not use anything else, because I don't know, it seems boring and kind of just like a dick move to me. But at the same time, the character is good, so there's worth in rebirthing him.
Yeah, I think so too. I agree with everything you said about that being such a curious choice. I'm not a huge Lantern guy, but I did read Darkest Night or Blackest Night and Brightest Day and all those kinds of things. And to me, the more obvious choice would have been to make Kyle the White Lantern in the game, have Parallax be somebody else, and have, if you wanted a second Sinestro, which I don't think you needed, but if you did, it should have been Green Lantern Sinestro. So they just kind of did everything in a very strange order, it seemed like. But that being said, the kit that they gave him fits perfectly for a White Lantern. To me, some of the best White Lanterns, Aquaman was a great White Lantern. Swamp Thing was an incredible White Lantern. But that heal, that revive, everything that they do is embodied in that kit. So I do like that aspect of it. I have seen some people run White Lantern off lead, and it's always interesting to me, because it's effective. His purge of debuffs is really good. His healing capabilities are really good. So it's not unheard of. It's something that people should consider as they continue to have other really good leaders in the game. But that being said, I think White Lantern's true value only skyrockets if they ever change the star system. If they change the star system, he becomes an S tier toon probably. To a point where if it's you get 3 stars for however many you have left standing, no matter how many died, which a lot of people have been begging for. Up until then, he's always just going to be kind of a notch below, because he's got that knock that to his value is embodied in dying.
Right. Yep. Exactly. It's nice that the revive is at least once guaranteed, but oftentimes it's two, especially on defense. Whatchamacallit. I do also, I'm in that crowd that wants the star system to change just because you are negating the usefulness. You're basically telling like one niche is lesser than the rest, and that is oppressive in my mind. I understand why they did it in the first place, because they created an oppressive meta. But once they got rid of that and they nerfed it to all get out, they should have readjusted moving forward. So either way, that's White Lantern Sinestro. Let's move into the next character, your other or another one of your unique RB5s. We got Vixen. Kind of a Swiss Army knife, kind of known as the Swiss Army knife of the game. I really, really enjoyed her rework. They did a good job of making every single one of her abilities like useful and viable for whatever fight you're in. Because before it was just spam Rhino and you'll get the most use out of her you can. But now it's like, okay, this is the situation. I use X move, and like even Bear became so much more potent. And Hawk too. God, I don't know a bad move in her kit. I wish that they would have made her basic can't miss, because when you're up against a Harley or an Eclipso and you want to use your Hawk, sometimes you get enraged and then you get screwed over because Harley is going to kill her with the retaliation or whatever. But she's still, in my mind, a very good character. They probably had a missed opportunity with her ult, or not her ult, her leadership. But at the same time, it's still decent for what it is. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, so I RB5'd her for two reasons. One, I was a Vixen fan before the rework. I was somebody that had taken her as high as she could go and used her in kits that people weren't expecting before they did the rework. So I was, super stoked to see that they were doing it. I think that she definitely improved. I think the leader option was a miss. I really wish that they had done something different with that, because she is most effective in these call assist comps under a leader that can do that. A Hippo or a Constantine or somebody like that will call her assist so that she's constantly resetting her cooldown. I have been asked before, what do you think her best move is? And I don't think there's a good answer, right? Like, she decimates Power Girl, Arcus, and Superman. Those are three characters that a lot of people have a lot of trouble with on defense. You see people claiming that they should be like nerfed or that they're unfair or they're OP when they're on defense. And it's like Vixen destroys them because she strips all of their immunities on the first hit, and then now it's a guaranteed second hit. It's so huge. Her evasion skills her anti-evasion skills are really good. She is I would say one of the only blues, maybe there's a couple, but one of the only blues that you can feel still pretty good about bringing into like a Batgirl Harley situation. That Eagle move is awesome. There are some people that knock it because they say like, well, you don't want to reset the turn meter of somebody that has evasions because you want the evasions to fall off. But with her, it doesn't matter because you are stacking evasion downs on them. And so they just become more easily killed by everybody else on your team. So I think that that's a really effective move. The Rhino took the biggest hit. One, because they fixed the bug. The Rhino used to be bugged such that it was secretly can't miss. That kind of broke my heart that they fixed that. But it is what it is. It's like it's a pretty good chance to stun and to stack a whole bunch of bleeds and to rebuild your own health through stamina ups. So all of her moves they're really, really good. She, to me, is your ideal, like if you've got three players and you're like, who do I add for a fourth? She will add to no matter what comp you bring. I think that they maybe misfired when they gave her the blue tank kit versus the blue striker kit. I think she could have been even more effective at what she does. But overall, very, very good job. I love both of her design art that they gave her in the game. Extremely cool character throughout DC history. So I was going to RB5 her. It just took me a little bit of time to get there. And I'm glad that I did, though. I use her all the time.
Good. You mentioned like the resetting the cooldown of stuff, and whatchamacallit. My workaround for that was I would use Donna Troy, and then I'd put in like a heavy buffer. I would put in like Owlman. Owlman would help her with the crits because she can be kind of low damage every now and again. Like if you're not using, I feel like Bear is her most damaging ability, but also mainly because I use that on green affinity people. But the Owlman helps with the crits, and it also helps with the cooldown reduction with Donna Troy. That fourth character can be whoever you want it to be. If you put some sustain in for Donna Troy, that's good. But at the same time, like that was just kind of my workaround for that. I feel like a call assist kit is kind of hard to pull off because there's very few characters that can guarantee call someone specific to assist. Like Hippolyta cannot specifically call Vixen to assist, but I know Constantine can. But you're now making her vulnerable by throwing a taunt on her, and same with Black Mask. I think the only one that can selectively call assist without making them vulnerable is Saint Walker. So whatchamacallit, I do value her a lot. In a lot of my 2D tunes, I always kind of think it to myself. I'm like, I kind of use the same leaders over and over again. I always use Cheetah or Raish, and I try and just diversify as much as possible. But I always forget about Vixen because her power level is so low that I don't scroll through her.
Right.
And I need to do that more often. But yeah, I think that she is very valuable for what she is. And I kind of disagree with you on the gear kit because I appreciate that she is like somewhat tanky and she can take a hit as well. What she has the use and she isn't like instantly killed by someone. So I can continue to get that utility out of her. And that's why I bring her anyway. Like if I wanted a damage blue, I'd bring Black Adam. You know, I wouldn't bring Vixen. But at the same time, I'm okay with what they did with her.
Yeah. I think a couple little things, a couple little tweaks, and they really would have taken her to the top. But to me, she's kind of like a high C to mid B list character in the comics as it is. Something that I do think that they could always do more with her. She's got a new series out as kind of her own, and then she recently appeared in Future State as well. So they're always going to be doing stuff with Vixen. And I think her kit fits what she is exactly. She adapts to whatever situation she needs to by choosing whatever animal she thinks is best, and that kit is a really good reflection of that.
Sweet. Well, now we have to move into She Who Must Not Be Named, Miss Wonder Girl herself, and I'm honestly actually surprised by how few people have whatchamacallit, Rebirth 5'd her. I'm pretty sure all four. I didn't really go back and look. I'm pretty sure all four of these people had her Rebirth 5 last time as well. That means there's no new additives or there's no new players that have Rebirth 5'd her. She's still she's not necessarily the threat that she used to be, but she's still pretty damn good. And even at RB5, like you get rid of the power creep problem, you get rid of her kind of low defense problem a little bit, not a lot. But you significantly add to the damage as well. So I'm really surprised the amount of people isn't the same level as like Black Adam, because Black Adam's list is so long. But I'm not a big fan of Wonder Girl. I will never do a 2D tune for her because everyone knows what she's capable of. She might not be as farmable anymore, so new players might kind of be a little screwed on that. But at the same time, due to all the content creators out there, we all mention her nonstop because she was the terror of like the last 2 years. So I get it. But what are your thoughts on Wonder Girl?
Yeah, I mean, I'll keep it brief. I would say they've never actually introduced any sort of counter to Wonder Girl. And yet, over the last month or two, she has not appeared quite as much. And even in the most recent Mystic Blitz, she was not there nearly as much as she used to be. The old Mystic Blitzes, you would see Donna and Wonder Girl together in like half of the comps, and she was kind of barely there in the last one. I think she is sort of on her way out in terms of like being a true meta toon. She's going to be S tier for her entire existence. She will sort of never quite be power crept. What knocks her out of the meta is literally just time and adding, 48 new toons since she debuted. And basically people are like, I need new toys to play with. I want to use different things. And so she's just not as interesting. And because people use her less, you see her on defense less. And so she slowly leaks out of the meta. It's not because her kit is any worse. It's not because she's truly power crept. It's because people are just bored with her. So time was kind of the ultimate thing that has caught up to Wonder Girl. And, that being said, every time there's a sale, people post about it on Reddit because it's like she's that big a deal.
True. I think WB is also like omni aware of how she affects the meta, and whatchamacallit, like her and Lex together were always a good duo because even if you stunned Wonder Girl so she wouldn't buff turn one, she might shed that stun and still buff turn one. Or like their creation of new characters in general is fairly low in buff count. Like, or if they are high in buff count, it's because they gain them passively instead of actively. So they don't set up her whatchamacallit, her passive buff gain. So
And then her buffs was a direct response to her as well. The fact that they can now pump 2 strength ups into 1 buff. And so, when Captain Boomerang came out, it was like, okay, he only needs 4 strength ups instead of 8. That was a Wonder Girl issue.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And it's weird that one character can do that, but that's the world we live in. So I never met the character,
a C-list celebrity in DC Comics.
Yeah,
around in Young Justice basically is all she's ever really doing, and they made her one of the most overpowered characters in the game.
Yes, I read there was one, like I saw like 2 pages once of a comic where Donna Troy and I think Wonder Woman both became zombies, and they ripped her heart out, and I was like probably the most happy person ever reading that page. I was like, yes, she deserves it. But even so, whatchamacallit, I never mentioned the players' names. Vincent Young of the Owls, who it's obvious that he would have her. Sheriff Lobo of the Owls. We have Frenchie from Viverite, and Devil's Knight, who is now part of the Owls as well. Whatchamacallit. So a lot of Owls. I know I try to make this as least owl centric as possible because I want to include everyone and all their alliances and make it a community wide project. And I feel like I've done a good job about that. But then these damn owls are out here Rebirth 5ing people left and right. So it's very difficult.
Is it Verite Red Frenchie? Are they like actually French and that's French for truth?
You might be right. I might have been butchering it this entire time.
All right.
How did you say it?
Verite.
Verite. Okay.
That's how I speak Italian, and that's how I would say it in Italian, and it sort of makes sense for French as well.
Do they do double V's in that language?
No, that I think might be a stylistic choice.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Verite. All right, I will continue. I will keep that up instead of Viverite. They're probably every time I say that, they're probably like, Red Frenchie, you need to fucking tell him. Anyway, and we have one final for the mystical Affinity Rebirth 5 list. This is your another one of your uniques, we have Zatanna, who, due to her massive amount of shards available, I'm surprised that there aren't more, just due to the fact that people might be sitting on shards and crystals and don't know what to do but put them together. But yeah, you are the first. The art is beautiful that SilverFox created for it. Apparently, he's a big fan as well of Zatanna. So why did you decide to Rebirth 5 Zatanna?
Everybody's a kind of a big Zatanna fan. I mean, she is like the magic icon of DC. There are far more powerful characters, but she is probably the best combination of being beautiful, being interesting, having the best backstory. All of those things. She fits into kind of young guys' fantasies, but also very cool fashion for women. All of those things. She is extraordinarily popular. Always has been. Her first appearance in Hawkman is it's a comic book issue that is always selling for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. I did it because I have always loved Zatanna. I'm a big Justice League Dark fan. When they debuted Justice League Dark very recently, she was kind of the heart and soul of that entire project. There are iterations. People sometimes say that Justice League Dark started in Swamp Thing, issues 48, 49, 50, when you've got her father and Constantine and Swamp Thing together, and some other versions like that. You've got Shadow Pact. You've got sort of all of these magic teams that float in and out. But when they came up with New 52, that was the first time that they gave it a name, and they made Zatanna kind of the person in charge. And I did it because I love her as a character. I love Justice League Dark. Her shards are widely available, and I wanted to kind of anticipate the rework. She desperately needs it. I will tell anybody that is gearing her up and going all the way up, even at RB5, you've got better options for virtually every single thing that she does. And I've seen, I think I've seen an RB4 and an RB3. So there are people doing it, especially in the last Mystic Blitz. I saw a couple floating around. But she can hit really hard at high levels. Her top hat it'll one-shot greens for sure. Her basic is really underrated because it stacks those intelligence downs. So if you do one of her call assists with either a Constantine or a Saint Walker or a Hippolyta or somebody that can call it twice, you're in pretty good shape because she's about to hit even harder every time that it comes up. Her heal is okay. It needs to either be an overheal or something to that effect. It's never that great. The purge isn't that good on it. But the biggest knock on Zatanna is she will die so easy to any affinity at any time. Blues knock her out, reds demolish her, and even strong greens can take Zatanna out pretty easily. So it's something that they need to address when they hopefully soon. It's one that, like, if you look in the Reddit forums, people have been begging for a Zatanna rework. It kind of swells up every October. Like, everybody's like, oh, it's Justice League Dark time. Let's get the Zatanna rework. And when it was Circe and Artemis, people thought maybe she might get it because Circe has been a foe of Zatanna in the comics. And then it just never comes. And it's one that people want, and I can't wait for it. I put my proposal in the forums that got a lot of traction. A lot of people really liked what I came up with. And I hope that they just do something soon because it is so overdue. She is the most power crept toon in the entire game.
I would agree with that because even characters like Cyborg and Batman Caped Crusader from the like original crew of toons in the game, they can still like one-shot people easily. and whatchamacallit, like it feels like Zatanna needs to be Rebirth 5, or she needs to stack a freak ton of intelligence downs before she can one-shot people. And she's also like incredibly slow as well, so that's a problem as well. But I do a little bit disagree on the heal. Maybe it's because I never actually geared her up, and all I see is the AI healing. So I don't. Maybe the AI like gets a critical heal every time, but like every time I fight her, she could have someone almost dead, and she brings them all the way back to full HP. And since it's an AoE and it clears debuffs at the same time, I feel like maybe it is a good heal, but at the same time, I'm apparently alone in that because a lot of people agree with you that it should be a massive overheal instead. So I'm not entirely sure where I stand on that because, like I said, I don't have her geared. I'm trying to get her geared for this coming raid.
Yeah.
She's a ×5, and you're probably sitting pretty with that. But whatchamacallit, I do think the heal is probably the one thing that I really enjoy about her kit. Her 3 is really good as well, especially against people like Power Girl, Arcus, because of that purge. But her leadership is outdated. I did like your idea. I had my own idea as well, but I'm not as big of a fan of Zatanna as probably you are. So by all means, I hope they go with yours.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I agree that her heal it's decent. I think the where it fails is in comparison to what we've seen. So since we have had Zatanna, they debuted Enchantress and they reworked Raven. And if you've ever seen Raven's heal kick in, she takes you from low HP to full overheal.
pretty great.
She's got a couple debuffs on her. Her heal is enormous. Now, granted, it's not an AOE heal; it's directed, but it is still huge. And then you've got Enchantress, who Enchantress's heals are really, really good, and you start the game with them. I have been running very recently in PvP and in Red Alerts just for fun. I run a team with those 4 sort of the magic women of the game together, where I'll run Zatanna, Circe, Raven, and Enchantress. And it's not a great team. It's one that you can run against sort of a heavy green enemy team, but it's a lot of fun where you just constantly are healing each other and working with debuffs and intelligence downs. And it's not as bad as it sounds, I should say.
Have you ever played League of Legends?
I have not played League of Legends.
Okay, so there's a character in League of Legends that kind of gave me an idea for like a potential rework for Zatanna, where when your ally is like low health, she gets a massive speed boost towards that ally. So
Huh.
putting that into DCL, I would like maybe to see, because obviously we have Lex in the game as well, who is very constant healer character. Like the heals are all the time, they're pretty massive, and they're overheals, and they also put intelligence ups on it too. So having Zatanna give her heal like a shorter cooldown, I would say like if there's an ally on your team that is below 50% health, she would probably like reset the heals cooldown and then gain X amount of turn meter until she finally got the turn and was able to heal that character. Like kind of speed her up to be able to come in for the rescue for that heal. But
Yeah, I like that a lot. And one of the things that drives me nuts about Lex is when you think of the mystic characters in the game, most of them are your healers, right? You've got more men's in blues than in any other affinity. They're the ones who kind of debuted overheal, all of those kinds of things. And then you think about the best healer in the game, and it's Lex by a landslide.
right.
They need to do some kind of rework to either Zatanna, Enchantress, Raven, or even Mera, who has all of her heals through men's. They need to rework one of those 4, or maybe even debut somebody new to make a mystic character kind of your go-to healer in the game. It makes sense for the affinity, and the Lex is like an affront to that.
I can agree with that. And I was hoping that Enchantress would get that because her entire kit is centered around her heal, or being healed. So I wanted it to be Enchantress. And when you were talking about like, oh, it's October, it's time to rework someone spooky, I was like, go for Enchantress, please, dear God. But Zatanna would be perfect for that as well. The true heal is great, especially for those insane tanks like Doomsday or Barda who just have a massive HP pool. It would be perfect for her. So, any other thoughts on Zatanna?
No, I think that's it. I just, keep begging for a rework, guys. We'll get it eventually.
We'll get it eventually. But yeah, that's our last blue for the Mystic Affinity Rebirth 5 showcase. It's probably a very long episode. I don't know how long yet, but I will find it. It's probably like an hour and a half or more. Yeah, it's pretty long. And whatchamacallit, next time will be the Energy Affinity, the final Affinity. I'll have another guest. We will kind of there's the most Rebirth 5s in the Green Affinity. So that's gonna be a very long episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I want to thank Mr. Zubaz for joining me one more time with his depth of knowledge in the mystic arts.
Thank you for having me. This was awesome. I can't wait to hopefully get a chance to do it again. And hopefully we get some new RB5s by then. Somebody why not? Enchantress is in the Alliance shop. Take her up. I've been working on Constantine, Enchantress. There's a couple blues out there that definitely could use it. So get those blue RB5s up, and we'll talk about it next time.
All right. And then also one more thank you to SilverFox for the intense amount of work he put in. He basically did double the amount of work as last time because he had to update the old images and create the new ones. So yeah, very much so appreciative of all the people involved in the project. So have a good night, guys. I appreciate you listening this far in, and we'll see you next time.